thank you for joining for the first community session of the year. And what a year it has been already. This is a very special week for those who are not aware. This week we had pull request number 9,000 and we had fork number 2,000, which is so exciting to start the year with. Just celebrating, just finished celebrating the successful last year and already having these milestones. They would have happened anyway, even if we didn't celebrate anything, but yet here we are. So thank you all for joining and being a part of this and achieving these milestones. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot more that we will achieve in the coming year. So what do we have in store for you today? Well, first we have Francesco, who's here to share a bit about the updated roadmap, another milestone. We have Diego from Kiratech, who will join us to talk about the integration of the Krateo project in Backstage, and we will go over the issues. But first, the roadmap. Francesco, welcome, and thank you for joining.
Hello, Happy New Year to everyone, of course. I think I can start sharing a little bit of context of an updated roadmap that we released, well, honestly, a few days ago. From the, let me say, initial numbers that I'm seeing in the access to the page, to the content, to the blog posts, I think it's pretty crowded and of interest of the various people. I'm receiving also some contact, and this is great. I mean, please continue to do that because it's absolutely the purpose of having a public roadmap. I mean, I don't want to start with an apologize because we would like to keep the roadmap updated most frequently. Sometimes we struggle behind this, but honestly, we struggle also because there's so a vibrant community that it's pretty hard to keep, let me say, a clear roadmap constantly updated. So let me share some thoughts. So first of all, the page where you can find the roadmap. So this is available in the open as an open source product should have. Let me very fast. Okay, I cannot share my screen. If someone can enable me for a couple of minutes, I would like to go through the content. But anyway, it is available in the public website at the link that I'm posting in the chat, but then that soon I will share also in my screen. Some disclaimers. First of all, guys, you can influence the roadmap. So, okay, now thank you very much. I can share my screen now. Okay, I think you can see the screen now. So again, this is the page where you can find the roadmap at the link that I posted in the chat. So first of all, this is very important to know that we split the roadmap, at least in this section, in what's next and future work. What's next is something that is already planned for happening in this quarter. We will go through pretty fast on the content. Future work is more about what we plan to do in the near future, in the next quarters until, let me say, 1 year and even more. This roadmap does include the community contribution, simply because it's impossible to be aware about all the amazing things that you are doing, guys, and you are contributing. And honestly, we have so many contributions that it's pretty hard to track all of them in one single place, even if it would be amazing. But saying that, it would be great if you could share with us also what you plan to do in the near future, so we can extend maybe and quote directly yourself as part of this amazing roadmap. Focusing a little bit more and going into the content, what we plan to do as part of this quarter as a core maintainer, of course, as maintainers of the product, is absolutely something that for me is very amazing. So we plan to think and ship what we call a Backstage 1.0 version. So as you probably know, Backstage is, well, let me say, me as product manager, I consider Backstage already mature enough beyond the 1.0. This is what the market is saying, because we have more than 80 public adopters, because the real adopters are more than double than this. We have lots of mature adopters, and most of you are mature adopters. And the product is showing, is proving maturity on the field, of course, in practice. Of course, we want to do more. Of course, we want to do better. But this is part of the evolution of a product. So the long story short is that today, if you check at the versioning of the product, if you check at what the documentation is saying, there are lots of beta, alpha in the core components of the platform. We want to go beyond that because we think it's the right time, because we think that the product is mature enough. And so during this quarter, you should expect also to see released Backstage 1.0. We are having lots of conversation around what Backstage 1.0 means, because Backstage is a collection of libraries, components, and I mean, open to this kind of conversation, but you should expect to have a 1.0 version of the catalog, 1.0 version of the scaffolder, 1.0 version of the core services of Backstage, together with other things, of course. The point, so in addition to that, of course, I didn't quote TechDoc, but TechDoc is part of the core use cases of Backstage. Another step ahead in the maturity of the platform that is not necessarily about the version 1.0, but it's a step ahead in making Backstage a mature platform beyond what it is today, more reliable and also more secure. What we are doing is working strictly with CNCF and most in particular with the third-party companies sponsored and supported by CNCF and promoted by CNCF to do some security auditing of Backstage to suggest potential vulnerabilities and, of course, how to go beyond that. This is only, so this is very important because it is a practical step and task to claim the maturity of the platform in a broad term. Something that I would like to share with you and highlight is also something beyond that task. Most in particular, the fact that the security auditing is a first step in a security strategy. We would like to define better and more a broad security strategy for Backstage. It is something that we are starting to work on and something that we will share and define better in the near future beyond this quarter. Last but not least, something that I would like to highlight now is about something that is very, very important for us. So about moving Backstage from the sandbox state in CNCF ecosystem as it is today to the incubation state. That is the next step of maturity also from this point of view. You can see here a public issue on GitHub defining exactly where we are and what we are doing transparently as part of this step. Honestly, we have an internal sponsor as it works in CNCF that is Leeds that we are working with. Honestly, we are involving also some of the mature adopters to share some feedback with the CNCF organization about their experience and usage. Things are going great, and yeah, we are already working on this relevant step that should help us in claim again the maturity of the platform, but also all of you guys in having more services from the CNCF ecosystem, because moving to the incubation will unblock a lot of additional services that will be beneficial for the entire community, not only the project. let me stop here for a moment, because for the moment, in what's next, there are these three major, let me say, milestones. This is not all that we are doing. We are waiting also for Adam Stevenson and Gary Neiman, are the two product managers of Backstage, to add their own stuff here in this roadmap, something that is going to happen in the next weeks. And so let's wait also, let's keep this page and this roadmap live and updated, hopefully also with regular updates that should align and inform you about what is coming next as part of the core maintainers and this initiative. Before going to the future work and this list here in particular, do you have any question on what we discuss here? We are discussing here. Okay, I take this as a no. And so let's spend just a couple of minutes on what we plan to do in the future, beyond that quarter. Of course, a disclaimer: every good roadmap for the future column, for the future part, is less clear than what is going to happen in this quarter. Less clear means that we have lots of idea, but something can change, of course. Something that the core maintainers are very committed to, and honestly, all of us are committed to, is also to improve the scalability of the platform, splitting some of the services between backend services and front-end services, again, exactly with the purpose of better scaling and managing all the services that are part of the core system of Backstage. I already mentioned the security plan and strategy. That is something that we want to continue to enhance and promote, again, to claim a stability and maturity to the platform. We should expect also a stable version of the general availability of the search service, something that probably we are not going to include into the Backstage 1.0 since the beginning. So Backstage 1.0 will be defined by catalog, scaffolder, tech doc, and the core system, of course. I'm not sure I'm losing. I don't think I'm losing something. Anyway, forgive me. We will have a dedicated session on this. So anyway, search will come as a stable version later on, probably in the following quarter. But in addition to that, we are thinking also to introduce the GraphQL support, something that I often hear here as part of the conversation, something that I would like also to hear from you if you think it's a good idea. Telemetry is another relevant topic because we would like to know more how Backstage is used and adopted, not only for our benefit, but also for the benefit of the adopters to understand better the usage of Backstage as part of their use cases. It's a big topic that we want to commit and extend, and we are committed also to discuss more about the UX implication and design. Let me pause here because otherwise it's too long. I am absolutely available if you want to discuss more about any of this topic and maybe add more things here. I think you know where to find me. I am in Discord. It's pretty easy now. And anyway, I'm very interested to understand from you feedback and suggestions and the thoughts around the roadmap and future direction of Backstage. And looking forward to continue the conversation and make this platform even better than it is today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this. We have the next topic. And for that, hopefully, we have Diego in the house from Kiratech.
Let me introduce myself. I am Diego Braga, and I work as a solution architect in my company. The name is Kiratech, but in the last year, this company that does cloud native solution services started to implement a software, an open source automation platform, because we are also a silver member of the CNCF. We work every day with customers that are adopting the cloud native methodologies and technologies. They are going along the landscape of the CNCF, but they are struggling to find out what is the tool to use, if it's overlapping with something else, if it's mutually exclusive, if it's the same thing. So a lot of customers that are embracing what they call the second wave of cloud native adoption. So the first wave was understand if the cloud native methodology and technology was feasible. And now everyone agrees with that. Everyone understood that there is a value to the journey for the transformation, so the digital transformation. But now the companies are struggling to scale to the enterprise level the adoption of these tools. So companies have like at least 10 tools. They need to coordinate them. They need to update them. They have really a nightmare as an onboarding for their users. So developers are asking every time new Kubernetes clusters. They want to share machine learning models. They want access to reports. So the platform team is struggling to answer to all these requirements. So in Kiratech, we started to think that there was a missing piece of the puzzle. That is the platform ops. So we didn't invent this name. Platform ops is an approach that the platform team has that is, okay, we are a platform team. We need to provide reliable services to our users. Services can be whatever and wherever. Can be on-premise, on public cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. And really, the standardization, automation are requirements for this approach. And so we started to build this platform, these open automation platforms that you can, I can leave the links later on. And basically, we are taking the best of breed technologies from the landscape and we are putting them into this platform that is installed in Kubernetes. But we use the Kubernetes control plane to orchestrate every service that can be also outside Kubernetes. So we started to use two really interesting projects. The first one is, guess what, Backstage, okay? Because we did a lot of evaluation with other solutions that were available out there. So it's 1 year that we are following Backstage, and we think that now Backstage has the maturity to be adopted also in enterprise companies. And so we put it into Krateo. And there is the other open source project which we are using, that is Crossplane. It is a framework that, as I said, enables to use the Crossplane API, the Kubernetes APIs to orchestrate the outside world from Kubernetes. So these two open source projects are within the platform, and we are using other solutions. If you dig into the repository, you can find that the scope of Krateo is to give you all the tools you need for the life cycle of your service. That can be really anything. And so we developed this architecture that basically everything that is imported into Krateo and created via Krateo is a Kubernetes, it's a manifest, is a YAML manifest. And Backstage is doing exactly the same thing. So once you write your own template.yaml, you import it into the catalog, you can offer whatever service your platform team wants to offer to its end users. So this abstraction, this standardization is the power for giving simplicity to self-service adoption and creation of resources. So again, we are not talking about infrastructure. We are not talking about lock-in technologies with Backstage, with Crossplane, with Kubernetes. The only limit is your business and keeping pace with the business requirements. We developed a CLI that is this repository. So if you wanna install it, you can. Your only requirement is to have a Kubernetes cluster. We have also distributions for Mac, Linux, Windows, etc. And with the 2 commands, you have your platform ops Krateo up and running. And the first thing you will see is the Backstage catalog. And we are really stressing out with our customers the fact that the fragmentation of the ecosystem of the cloud native landscape needs to bring back all the relevant data in the same place. So it doesn't mean that we have to go to a monolith approach. You can cherry pick the technology you want, but the really important thing is that all the relevant data must be in the same place. So my user doesn't need to know. We have 2 examples here. My end user that needs an infrastructure on AWS doesn't need to put details on the infrastructure. This abstraction is provided from the platform team. So you just fill out the form and then you're ready to go. If you can have services for infrastructure, for writing an application in React, and whenever you create a service, everything is out there collected from Backstage. So when we show this to customers, there is a wow effect, because in the same web page you have the knowledge about the repository of code that has been created with Backstage. You have immediately access to the documentation. You have immediately the overview of the infrastructure. So I have a backend that uses a database that is consumed by a front end, etc. Sonar code reports. So I don't want to bother you with all the tabs that are here. We use Argo CD for the GitOps part, and you see immediately the status. These are plugins that are available in the Backstage marketplace. And we are going to release our plugin that we wrote recently to integrate Captain, because I don't know if you know Captain. Maybe I can bother you really in 2 seconds. It's important to create resources, it's important to create services, but then you need to do release orchestration. So I need to promote my application in different environments. I need to promote my database in different environments. And again, I don't have to use 3 different tools to do the same thing. So once you have everything in Kubernetes, once everything is using the Kubernetes APIs, then you can apply the same release orchestration tool to anything. And so we will contribute this plugin that we are writing, and we will show the first demo at 6 p.m. Italy time. There is a live stream that the guys from Backstage will be there with us. We will be with a CNCF ambassador, and we will talk about Krateo with all the audience. We will show the first release of the Captain plugin that we wrote for Backstage. So we put also release orchestration within the same dashboard. So I will leave you, if you want, all the links, and please play with the Krateo, give us a lot of feedbacks, and you can reach me out in a lot of ways that I will leave in the chat. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat by Adam, and it is, in the template, how do you prevent engineers from choosing an oversized database?
It's you have different ways you can. So let me go back to the catalog. For in particular this one, you can decide via Backstage if this field is. You can input whatever you want. If it's a drop-down menu like here, So you, as a platform team, you can decide what your user can do or not do. In this case, we leave this example because if you create a PostgreSQL database in AWS that is not a T2 micro, you get an error from AWS logs. And so we usually do the demo effect with the user that wants to change this type of instance, and you get an error, and then you go back to your Git repository, you change again this instance class, and then everything is back to normal.
Yeah, the remark is if we give them a choice, they will choose the largest. But maybe for that, there's another solution, the Cost Insights plugin, which we will talk about later a little bit. So, but yeah, it is interesting to see. And you're actually gluing a lot of CNCF projects together, if I may put it bluntly.
The fact is that you cannot handle all the tools that are outside there, and customers choose different monitoring tools, different Git tools. You cannot support everything. So the architecture that we chose and to be on Kubernetes forces us to be loosely coupled between the components of the architecture. So we can plug and place components that can be tailored made for any situation of every customer that is always different. If the customer doesn't have a choice for a particular tool, we can propose our best tool that we think is the right one.
So you also help with the, well, very, very difficult landscape to navigate it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you determine what services you do and do not include?
Yeah, it's based on our expertise. It's based on the feedbacks from the customer. It's based on feedbacks. It's a journey which we bring on in different ways. There is the open source version, which you can download, use, and add whatever you want. There are other versions that are more enterprise. There is a silver one where you can self-check out the license, and then you get batteries included architecture. And if a customer, usually an enterprise one, has already a CI tool for monitoring tool, then we sit around the table together and we shape what is missing and what is the effort to fill the gaps.
And you can also extend it yourself.
Exactly.
Right. It's an open source project. So
yes, for sure.
Cool. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about it. Another question just coming in is the size of the companies who are interested in Krateo. That is a really good question.
Yes, because we are getting interest from different sizes. We had greenfield companies that they want to start day one with a framework that can be immediately adopted. We have really big enterprises that wants to find a common and standardized way to, let's say, collect the existing automations and offer them in a standardized way. So it's really the matter of where is the company in its maturity and its digital transformation journey, but we always answer that Krateo fits in these different sizes. We don't want to replace anything. We want to suggest what is the control plane to put upon your existing tool chain.
Yeah, awesome. So the next item on the calendar is the issue. And that question is from Satish Kumar, and it is about the Cost Insights plugin. And the question is, more specifically, I would like to know how we can start creating Cost Insights clients to pull data from Azure, GCP, or OCI. and also a side question about the tech insights. And I know for a fact that we have Tim on the call. Tim, I'm just putting you on the spot here. Hello.
Hello.
So can you share a bit more about how one could use the Cast Insights plugin to pull data?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe it'd be useful to show Cast Insights just for a moment. If anyone's not familiar with it, if you could make me
yep, I am
co-host.
There you go. Oh, wait.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Let's see. Okay, so I'll show just briefly on our demo site, which is at demo.backstage.io. There's the Cast Insights plugin here, and it just has some sample data, but this gives you an idea of what it is. So this is basically a way to show infrastructure costs to teams that are incurring those costs in Backstage. So it'll show you, your daily spend, in our case, in the cloud, and it'll show you action items, things that we recommend that you do to optimize your cost. And then it'll show you breakdowns by service or data pipeline or what have you for like quarter over quarter. So you can see what's increasing in cost, what's decreasing in cost for various cloud services. So this is the plugin that's been released in open source, but it's only a front-end plugin. So it has an API that you must implement yourself if you want to use this to show cloud costs to your teams, which is a big limitation, and we were not happy about that. But the way that Cast Insights works internally is very tied to GCP, not very flexible for other clouds at the moment. And there's some nuance to how it works internally as well, in terms of how data is aggregated and packaged up for the API. So we haven't quite gotten to a point where we're ready to release a backend for it, which is really what would help make this easy to adopt. But to get to your question, if you're interested in adopting this and creating your own implementation of the API and the backend, maybe it'd be useful to describe how it works at Spotify to give you some inspiration. So we use Google Cloud primarily, and Google Cloud offers a BigQuery export of billing data. So we use that as a starting point. And from that billing export, we aggregate things to a daily snapshot. And this is done using data pipelines. So we produce these daily data sets. And then from there, something we do is pull out labels from GCP. So in the Google Cloud, you can add labels to resources, sometimes called tags in AWS. It's basically a way to add metadata to something that's running in the cloud. And this allows us to add labels that map back to components. And this way we can kind of summarize billing information and cost by service. So that's what allows us to do things like, show your cost in Compute Engine for a particular service. So Backstage open source is not very opinionated yet about data pipelines and how you might aggregate data. And that's part of the reason that it's hard to take our internal solution and open source it just yet. So that's probably something you'd be interested in doing if you're going to implement this, is have some kind of daily pipeline that runs, that takes your billing data and packages it up in a way that is nice and compatible with this API. And you also would want to go out and label your cloud resources so that you can associate the costs back with services. So in Google Cloud, we can do that via tags, and they have this billing export to BigQuery, which is very nice. Other clouds have kind of mixed results in terms of billing APIs. I know Azure has a consumption API, AWS has their Cost Explorer API, and Oracle, I think, has something called cloud metering. So there are APIs in order to get this billing data out, and then you'd have to figure out how to summarize it nicely. This is the other thing that makes it kind of hard to release a nice backend, is because you'd want it to support many different clouds and have the capability of reading from all these APIs. So we would probably start small and introduce one cloud as supported, and then kind of add those others over time. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a view into Cost Insights. It's a unfortunately hard lift at the moment if you want to use it because of all those reasons. But we are working on open sourcing a lot of the plugins at Spotify, and this is something that we'll probably be looking at some point in the future.
So how could one use the Tech Insight plugin and how to go about that? Is there anybody on the call who wants to answer that question?
I could probably chip in a little bit. So that's a plugin created by Roadie, and we've been taking a look at that. So there are a few implementations that are present in the Backstage repository, open source repository itself at the moment, and they are very much related to the entity data itself. But if, let's say, the end question is how to drive migrations, for example, with the Tech Insights plugin, would be to create your own what we call fact retrievers to retrieve the, let's say, current version of the migration for each entity, and then use the already existing scorecard component within Backstage to actually display that data. So currently the example implementations, they are displaying values like, does the entity have correct annotations and stuff? But this same concept could be then expanded into, okay, has this entity or the actual service behind it been migrated already? There is ongoing work, so we'll add a little bit more documentation as well as use examples for Tech Insight stuff still. But yeah, I guess it's kind of starting to reach the state where we can start, or we have received enough information and feedback around that we can start kind of stabilizing it and writing the documentation, usage and examples of that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Affirmative. I see a yes in the chat, so that's good. Thank you, Jussi, for answering this this question and sharing those insights. And there's also another question for the software templates in combination with Terraform. I'm not sure if somebody is here who can.
I can maybe give this a go.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends what you're using Terraform for, or rather what you want to do with the scaffolder. From my very limited experience with Terraform, you can create some Terraform templates or something that defines your Terraform plan, I guess. So those definitely you can create with the scaffolder to create your Terraform base files that you will then apply. Whether you do the apply or not part of the scaffolder, I don't know. I probably wouldn't advise it because it's probably going to take quite a while to do. Maybe that's a big part of your CI/CD setup, I think. So when you basically create the scaffolder repo and push it to GitHub, the CI and CD pipeline will pick up your Terraform plan, your files, your base files that you've basically templated all the details into, and then run the plan in CI instead, and maybe deploy that to development or whatever. Yeah, I think it totally depends what you want to do. Again, you've said to ask on Discord, come find me on Discord and we can maybe talk about it a little bit more if there's more use case in there. But I think that's probably what I would suggest.
So that brings us to the end of this adopter session, the first one of this new year. Thank you for joining us